gonna change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask. I just really hit the field. 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 Boy, I'm about to hit the field.
And we're back for another episode of the Hitting the Field podcast on this Tuesday, January 21st. Jeremy Brener, your host here, and it was a long weekend, but we are back, and a lot happened in the World Day Sports, the Sport Days. So I got two of HTF's newest talent here with me in the booth today to talk about it all. We got Mr. Jeff Laux right next to me. Jeff, El Jefe. Can I call you El Jefe?
Yes, sir.
El Jefe. What's going on, El Jefe?
Crazy world of sports, man. I mean, just wow.
How was your weekend?
It was crazy good.
Good. Ooh,
it was,
that sounds like you did something.
Yes, I did do something.
Ooh.
I got to watch the hype train fall apart of the Titans, and I was very, very sad.
Yeah. All right, and then we have a first-time appearance from our next panelist, Mr. Robert Husby. Robert, tell the folks a little bit about yourself and what brought you to HTF.
Well, hello there. So I actually found HTF. Well, Jeremy's actually in my class.
That's right.
So
That's right. Yeah. Say that one more time.
Jeremy's in my class.
Thank you. Who brought you to HTF?
Jeremy.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. All right.
I had actually known about it for a few seasons that it was going on and just never got involved. And then when Jeremy said in class, hey, we're doing Hitting the Field. If anybody wants to join up, come to our meeting. And I was like, there's my chance to get involved. So here I am.
And I'll take the credit on that one.
You should.
You knew about it, yeah. But, I mean, you knew about it while I was on the show. So I'll take credit for this one. But anyway, usually what I like to do when we have no show on the Monday for a holiday or something like that, I like to bring us into the booth and not just focus on one specific area, but just to try to encompass, try to tie it in a bow, put it in a little book, and see what we missed over the weekend. Because we did have a lot to cover over the weekend in many different arenas. But we'll start with NBA on MLK Day. So 14 games took place yesterday. That's 28 of 30 teams playing yesterday. So a lot of games were going on. We have basically kind of like the halfway point of the season, kind of where, a lot of teams are really just starting that, game 42, game 43. So it's kind of a significant moment in the season a little bit. It's, there's a lot of nationally televised games, but, yesterday was, I think, a lot of teams made statements yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I want to go across the board, and I want you get 1 minute to talk about the one thing that stood out to you the most, the one thing you take away from the most from any of the games from yesterday. And Robert, we're going to start with you. So 1 minute on the clock starting now.
Well, special shout out to Damian Lillard, who dropped 61 points against the Warriors last night. That is remarkable. But the takeaway from me, personally as a Lakers fan, just watching the Lakers get absolutely embarrassed by the Celtics.
Yeah.
A 30-plus point lead by the Celtics. Embarrassing. Yes, Anthony Davis was on limited minutes, but this is the frustrating thing about the Lakers. The Lakers have shown that they're a deeper team than a lot of people give them credit for, but they'll go and they'll beat the Rockets, last on Saturday.
They did. And
that's without Anthony Davis. And, the bench steps up, has a big game, and then they go out against the Celtics. Yes, they score, 107 points, but no defense, and that's consistently an issue for the Lakers is they need to get someone on the wing that can defend. That's where, Andre Iguodala would be nice. They're probably not going to get him, But that's where you need to go out and get a guy like Darren Collison or someone like Iguodala, like Collison, where you can get some defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. But let's dive a little bit deeper into this. So, Celtics last night, they shoot 55.9% from the field. It's hard to win basketball games when you let that happen.
Yeah,
let's get that straight.
Yeah.
But you also have, so the Celtics shot 47% from the 3-point line compared to the Lakers made just 7 threes.
Yeah, that's
on 26 attempts. You shoot 26%. That's another thing. And that's something that I've learned as someone who follows the Rockets religiously. They were kind of the ones to kind of start this. You know, if you win in that 3-point contest, there's a good chance you can win the game because you're making 3 while other teams are making 2. So, look, it's hard to win games when you allow these kind of numbers. But, was this more, though, of the Lakers just underperforming or the Celtics just being on their game? Because, look, 56% is very uncharacteristic for the Celtics, too. Let's get that right.
Yeah.
Like, this Celtics team, they're a good team, but they're not a team that's going to blow out the number 1 team in the West by 30 points.
Right.
That's not something that should happen, but it did.
Yeah.
So was this more of the Celtics being just on their game, or was it the Lakers kind of just, suffering from, the second half of a long road trip?
As much of it's a cop-out answer, it's almost both. Don't forget, as the Celtics don't have the best record in the East,
they're, I believe, second or third in the East.
Are they third in the East?
Yeah, it's
I know Miami was second.
Yeah.
But regardless, they're not better than the Bucks, and the Bucks are the team to beat in the East right now. Mm-hmm. And I think people forget the Celtics also have they got Kemba Walker, they got Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, they're actually fourth in the East.
Fourth,
yeah,
so
they're a half game behind the Raptors for third, and a game and a half behind the Miami Heat for second.
Yeah, so it's a close race, but it's still a team that has Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. It's a good team, and but the Lakers have to be better on that 3-point defense. When you allow that many 3-pointers against the Celtics, it's going to be a long night, and if you can't improve that defense, this is arguably their biggest loss of the season. It's their biggest rival and their worst loss.
When you look at how the Lakers are constructed, it's a team filled with bigs and guards, and I include LeBron James as a guard because homeboy is leading the league in assists. He's practically a guard. He should be considered as such. So, yeah, that's the one thing. And the thing is, when you have a team like the Celtics, which is consisted of basically wings, that's a difficult matchup for the Lakers. Now, I also think, though, you have to take into account that the West's brand of basketball is very different from the East brand of basketball. The East brand of basketball relies on wings versus the West, it's more dominant on, guards and big men. And that's exactly how the Lakers are constructed. The Lakers are setting that bar, setting that tone for people. Jeff, do the Lakers need to hit a panic button or something, or is this just kind of like a fluke, if you will?
This is a fluke. Anthony Davis has suffered through a minor injury these past couple of weeks. He didn't play against the Magic. The Magic beat the Lakers. Everyone's panicking then.
Didn't play against the Rockets.
Yeah.
They beat the Rockets.
Yeah. So I don't look at it saying panic, but I do think they need a 1-2 punch coming off the bench. I think that Quinn Cook really needs to take a step up if they really want to enforce that number 1 seed.
He's like the 6th best point guard on that team, which is kind of yeah. And you mentioned Darren Collison earlier. I think that's a good idea if they can lure him out of retirement. It certainly would make sense. He's from Los Angeles, so that would. I think that, but also, do they need a guard? Do they need another guard? Or do they need a wing? That's what's going to be, the factor here for the Lakers. Jeff, name one player you think they should go after in a trade.
As you already said, Andre Iguodala, a dominant wing that can defend and can run easy layups. He's not going to wow you with his shot, but he plays hard every single play that you see him on. Yeah,
I think, look, it's going to be hard to get rid of Iguodala, though. That's the only thing, is that the Grizzlies want to pick, and that's $17 million that you're going to have to be responsible for. And, if you look at the Lakers, basically all of their guys, except for LeBron and AD, are practically on veteran minimum contracts. There's not a whole lot of movable objects you can really do. I mean, Quinn Cook would probably have to go in that deal, I would assume. And then you think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope probably is the one person that you have to let go in the deal. If you had this right now, a pick, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Quinn Cook for Andre Iguodala, would you pull the trigger if you're Rob Pelinka?
Honestly, the way KCP's been playing, I don't think you can trade him. I think he's been too valuable to this team. And, at the start of the season, you say that, and you get laughed in the face because Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was not anywhere near what Clutch got him that contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But
he's played well lately.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, honestly, the one that I think they're looking to move and people are still on the fence, I think it's Kyle Kuzma. Yes, he's not making much, but that's a guy where you say, look, is he really going to reach that potential? Or,
It's because when he does get to that point, they're not going to be able to pay him.
Right.
Especially if they're going to look to give AD that payday at the end of the season. And if they're going to look to possibly, they still have 2 more years after this of LeBron. So, yeah, I could see Kuzma being done. I just can't see it this year. I would assume it would have to happen either in the offseason or next season. This year, I feel like they're in too much of a precarious position to think about dealing their third best player. It just doesn't make sense for me to see the number 1 team in the West deal their third best player. It just doesn't make sense. But let's move on. Let's pivot from the Lakers. Jeff, I want you to give me your biggest takeaway from yesterday.
The tank is not on. The Thunder are looking to make the playoffs. They made a big statement last night against a very short rotation Rockets team. I mean, the Rockets only had, 8 guys playing, and most of their players played almost near, I mean, 2 of their top players played almost above 30 minutes, which is expected, but it's not good for your team's overall health. I mean, Oklahoma City came in the season, let's just tank. Chris Paul is old, he's over the gap of where he could be great again. I mean, Danilo Gallinari, he's always been a serviceable guy ever since being with the Denver Nuggets. But now everyone's like, wow, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's really showing out. While Steven Adams is still playing really well, even though he didn't score anything last night, because Clint Capella played really well. And I think the Rockets really need to look into getting a punch off the bench, whether it's a high-flying shooter or someone of the sorts.
Oh, they definitely need somebody. They need something. I mean, look, when James Harden shoots 1 of 17 from 3, if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. And look, that's what frustrates me the most about the Rockets is the fact that their solution to not shooting well is to keep shooting because they're like, eventually it will fall. Well, if you take that approach, you might not win these games, and these games are proving to be important because, what's happening right now is the Rockets are slipping. They're falling down in the West. They're 6th in the West right now by a game and a half. Yes, it's only 3.5 games to second, but the difference between 2nd and 6th is not that much. And if you are slipping games in January, that's going to come to bite you in the butt in April. It's what the Rockets learned last year the hard way, and they're going to learn it again the hard way this year as well. And I agree with you, Jeff. They need somebody off the bench. However, this team is in such a terrible position to trade. They have absolutely no assets to trade. They have this first-round pick for this year. That's really it, though. Who's going to want this pick? I mean, maybe teams will want this pick because it's not going to be as low as it usually is. But I mean, look, Eric Gordon, 2 of 12. James Harden, 9 of 29. That's unacceptable. 29 points for James on 29 shots. That is inefficient. Very inefficient. At least Russ played well. But that's not enough. That's not enough to beat good teams. And yes, Oklahoma City is a good team. The thing is, the reason why the Rockets, if anybody needs to hit the panic button right now in the NBA, it is the Rockets. Because the Rockets are actually proving that they are slipping. Not anybody else. The Lakers lose once. It's not a big deal. They're still number 1. The Rockets are actually losing position right now. They're trailing these teams. And, 4 straight, this is the longest losing streak of the season for Houston. And, I'm convinced that there might be, some some change of fortunes on the horizon, but there's no guarantee of that. 26 and 16, I want to say through 42 games last year, that was their record or better. Or their record or worse, excuse me. I actually think they're at a better pace this year, but the thing is, the West is better this year. The Lakers are better. The Jazz are better. The Nuggets are better. These teams, Dallas is better. That's why they're slipping, even though their record is relatively the same from last year. Teams are getting better, just like, supposedly the Rockets are, but are they really getting better? Is this more of the Thunder are just, playing spoiler to a lot of teams, or is this Rockets, you need to get your act in check?
I think the Rockets are slipping, as you're saying. I mean, it's unacceptable to see James Harden have horrendous field goal percentages every single night. I mean, the other night, what did he shoot? 25, 26%?
Yeah, it was not good.
I mean,
he's in a slump.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, what I didn't understand from yesterday's game, Steven Adams played 5 minutes, and then he got hurt and didn't play. So the Thunder were shorthanded, and they played a smaller lineup, which usually benefits the Rockets, because the Rockets, I want to say, have the smallest lineup in the game. You look at what Russell Westbrook did, almost all of Russell Westbrook's points came from inside the paint. And because he was driving. Because you don't have Steven Adams in the paint. You have Mike Muscala. You can easily get buckets off of that. But James was like, no, I'm going to get this 3-point shot in check. But throughout the entire game, he never... Look, the easiest shot in basketball is a layup. Why don't you go for the layup? It doesn't make sense to me. And James is a smart guy. He's a smart guy. I don't know why that kind of stuff is going to happen. And I get it. Look, 3-point shot is the most efficient shot on the floor. But when your efficiency is low, go and get the best shot on the floor, which is a layup. And James is very capable of getting a layup. So why don't you do it? It's so frustrating to see teams like this. Because the Rockets have the talent to be the best team in the West. They do. And I know that might sound like a little far-fetched, but they actually do. They are 2 years removed from being the best team in the West. And then they go and add an MVP on top of that. They should be number 1, number 2 in the West without question. The fact that they're number 6 right now, number 6, that's crazy. Unacceptable.
Who would you rather have, Kevin Love or LaMarcus Aldridge?
Right now?
Yes, right now. Put him on the team. I don't know how you're going to get them because, like you said, you do have...
I think LaMarcus Aldridge actually is a better fit for the Rockets. Although Kevin Love's my favorite player since he got into the league, honestly. Outside of the Rockets, I would love to see Kevin Love in a Rockets uniform. But, look, I don't see a world in which the Spurs ever trade with the Rockets, especially with a top, high-key profile player. Cleveland, they've made trades with. They made a trade with them last year. So Kevin Love is the more obvious guy. If Daryl Morey is really looking to make a shock, which he's done before several times, look at James Harden number 1 and Russell Westbrook number 2. Those are the two, and Chris Paul number 3. He is known for making these big splashing trades. Kevin Love is the biggest splash you could possibly make at this point. However, it would cost you a lot. You have to trade probably... you definitely have to trade your first round pick. You definitely have to trade probably Isaiah Hartenstein, which they did a lot to keep him. And I just don't see they released Gary Clark. He's not playing for the Magic, but they did so much work to try to get all these guys in, and it just I don't see how they can make it. That's what I said earlier, is their positioning to make a trade is not very good right now. They don't really have very many players they can trade. They can trade Daniel House, maybe. I mean, House Hartenstein, a pick. The money won't work. I mean, it would be cool, though, to see Kevin Love come because he was college teammates with Russell Westbrook. But it's just, logically, it just doesn't make... The money's not there.
One more question. Is Clint Capella untouchable?
Yes. In that trade, yes.
No, just in general.
In general?
Yeah. Let's say you offer him in a first rounder to the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know if they accept it because Greg Popovich does love Aldridge, but
it would have to take a really. It'd be idiotic to trade Clint Capella at this point. I wouldn't say he's untouchable though. It'd be idiotic to trade him, but he is not untouchable. Daryl Morey pulled the craziest trade to get Chris Paul here. Then he dealt him after 2 years. Like there's a chance he could be traded. Absolutely, nobody is safe in Houston at this point. And now James Harden, he's shooting 1 of 17 from 3. He ain't safe either. The only person safe in Houston right now, it's probably like one of the water boys. Like honestly, I actually do know like one of the water guys for the Rockets. He's worked there for like 20 years. He's a friend of my dad's because they work together. But he's probably the safest person in the Rockets organization at the point. Everybody should be at risk, and they could pull the trigger on this at any point. But let's move on because that depressed me so much. But let's talk some football. Tickets were punched. Tickets were punched for the Super Bowl in Miami, about 3 hours south of here, and it's the Chiefs and the 49ers. Both home teams won, and I think, look, we should be really excited for the Super Bowl. I know I am, and is there any objection between the two of you? Like, is there anything that, is there a matchup that you would have preferred to see, or, what sours you about this matchup?
I would have loved Green Bay and Tennessee just because everybody would have hated it. It would have been great. No, but honestly, I think this is the best case scenario. I mean, I'm not huge on the 49ers and the Chiefs personally, but there's no doubt denying it's the top defense in the NFL versus one of the top offenses in the NFL. Yeah. And that's no slouch against the 49ers offense either. I mean, the 49ers offense has been great too, but
they ran for almost 275 yards.
Yeah, it's a battle of titans. It's a clash of the titans, literally.
I mean,
without the titans.
Without the titans, but let's talk about the Niners a little bit. Raheem Mostert, 220 yards. Who saw that one coming? Jeff? El Jefe?
Not me. I mean, you can even pull out Kyle
former Brown, Raheem Mostert. Yeah.
I mean, literally, their whole running back room is full of beasts. I mean, any week you can get any combination. I mean, Tevin Coleman's been playing well, besides he just re-injured himself. I mean, Raheem Mostert playing really well. Matt Breida playing really well. It's just like ride the hot hand, and they've been doing it all season. Then they've taken off the pressure off of Jimmy G. Everyone's like, oh, he's inexperienced. He hasn't been in the playoffs. I mean, the running backs have done a great job of supporting him,
the holes that offensive line created for Mostert, I could have gotten 100 yards. and I am not as fast as Raheem Mostert, but I could have gotten 100 yards off of that. The offensive line does not get enough credit here, and I want to credit them because they made the Grand Canyon appeared. They literally, it was like Moses, and what the Niners offensive line did was so impressive. Very similar to what the Titans offensive line was able to do. However, who was the one team that could stop the run against the Titans? The Chiefs. And that's what I really love about this matchup is that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to be won and lost in the trenches, just like it should be. Every football game should be decided like that. There shouldn't be football games that are decided by, who's going to make a play on defense, like who's going to make a play in the secondary, who's going to, make some ridiculous catch, and a lot of Super Bowls recently have been decided by that, but I don't think that it's going to happen in this game. I honestly think it's going to come down to who wins that battle in the trenches, and I love that because that's how football was intended to be played. That's how football was intended to be won and lost, was in the trenches. And look, the Niners offensive line, I wonder how many yards the team has run for this year, because they have so many guys that have run for, I want to say they've had 4 guys run for over 100 yards this season. Imagine if Colin Kaepernick was their quarterback still. He'd be running for 100 yards too. My goodness. But I want to pull this up because what the Niners have done, they had the number 2 pick in the draft last year, and they're going to have one of the last 2 picks in the draft this year. Talk about how much of a testament that is to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. 3 years ago, took over this team from scratch, and now they're playing for a Super Bowl. Robert, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest turnarounds you'll see. I mean, this again, like you said, this was a lottery team.
Yeah.
last year, I mean, they were the second worst team in the league, and they get Nick Bosa, and as much as Nick Bosa has been, has been instrumental to that defense. I mean, it's also they signed Quan Alexander. Kittle has had this huge rise. Garoppolo's been playing well. It's a mix of just all these guys finally living out their potential on this 49ers team, and they went from bottom feeder to top of the league, and it's remarkable, honestly. I mean, Kyle Shanahan deserves a lot of credit because he's arguably one of the most, probably one of the most, if not the most, offensively minded coach out there. I mean, it makes sense he was an offensive coordinator, but he's very so smart, and he knows how to call plays, and he's really like what McVay was last year for the Rams. I mean, honestly, and it's a similar career. McVay comes in, terrible Rams team, has a mediocre season. Second season, they're on top, going to a Super Bowl, and now this is Shanahan's third. I think it's similar.
Yeah,
two bad years, and then right to a Super Bowl. So it's a remarkable turnaround.
So the Niners ran for 144 yards a game this season. That's best. That's good for second in the league.
Yeah.
It's pretty good behind the Ravens, and the Ravens have a quarterback that ran for 1,000 yards too. So it's hard to beat the Ravens. But if you take away the Ravens, they are the best running team in football. And we talked for so many years about how it's about the quarterback, and it's about who it's a quick offense kind of game, but the Niners have defied that. They have done it the old-fashioned way almost. So, I mean, how do you think, they played the Packers. Let's go back to Sunday, because that's what we're not really previewing the Super Bowl. That will take place next week on the show. But let's talk, against the Packers. They punched them in the mouth. They punched them in the mouth, Jeff. How do you, if you're a Packers fan, what do you think in that first half?
It's insane how the defensive line of the 49ers really stopped and shut down Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron Jones was he's the X factor of this game. If he can get going, I mean, the Packers have a chance, but they wouldn't let him get off the line of scrimmage. Aaron Rodgers was being forced out of his comfort zone the whole time, which is hard to do against one of the greatest of all time. I mean, they made that offensive line. They made Beluga and they made Bakhtiari look like rookies, man. I mean, Bosa is a rookie, and he's making the left tackle look like a rookie who's an all-pro. What is he, 6-time all-pro? I mean, best left tackle in the league by far.
Yep.
Besides Trent Williams.
I mean, but I mean, I agree. I think what they've done this year is remarkable. Are the Niners the best coach team in the league? Is it safe to say that? I think so. But is there an argument against that? Yes,
there is no argument. I mean, their offensive line, like you said, they're making just that massive holes. That one commercial with the lady, man, they have the first lady offensive line coach
Katie Sowers
ever.
Shout out to Katie Sowers. Yes. I love me some Katie Sowers. We met in New York once a couple of years ago, and she's awesome.
Phenomenal.
Love Katie. She's I love her. She's fantastic. But Robert, let's get you back into this. So, I mean, how so you go into a Super Bowl now, the Niners. Is there a weak spot that this team has?
I would say the weakest spot on that team is mostly an intangible. It's whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo can handle that pressure. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo's been to, I think, 2 or 3 Super Bowls, but of course,
this is the second. Yeah,
this is his
I believe
second,
so. Yeah.
This is as a backup. He's sitting watching, one of the greatest to ever do it go and win a Super Bowl, and that's experience you can get, and not a lot of teams do get. But not being involved, not being on the field, not taking every hike. You're not gonna get the experience you need to say, okay, definitively, yes, he has the necessary experience you need for a Super Bowl. So I think he's the biggest question is, and I think that goes for Mahomes too. I mean, Mahomes is being his entire future of his legacy is being held to what he does in his very first Super Bowl. So, I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this quarterback matchup is and how they react to pressure. I mean, they've both done very well up until now, and I think this is it. This is the pressure cooker. Can you handle the pressure, or do you got to get out of the kitchen?
2-time Super Bowl champion,
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo,
Yeah.
going for his third, which, for
First one he's going to actually if he
first
wins,
one he's starting.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, he's been in the league 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is sixth season. If you win 3 Super Bowls in 6 years, that's a pretty impressive stat.
Yeah.
I mean, to win 3 Super Bowls, period, is incredible. To win 3 in 6 years with 2 different teams, that's pretty remarkable. But they do have a tough test in front of them. The Kansas City Chiefs. They came all the way to the AFC Championship last year. Probably should have won that game. Now they're where they belong, in a way, the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl. You got LaShawn McCoy in his first Super Bowl. Although I wouldn't say LaShawn McCoy's playing a huge role, but shout out to LaShawn McCoy getting, possibly in a ring. He deserves it, I believe. But the Chiefs, so they played a similar game plan that they did with the Texans. They trail early. Not 24 points this time, only 10. But they were able to... That felt like nothing almost. Because of the deficit that they had the previous week, and because they had Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill working their magic as they usually do. So it's kind of like a contrast of styles here. But let's talk about the Chiefs. And, you have a team that's running the football versus a team that it loves to, just air it out. I think, honestly, what the Chiefs have is probably the closest. It's probably like the closest thing that the Cardinals want with Kyler Murray. It's very similar, and look, hey, Texas Tech. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, Patrick Mahomes. That used to be his coach. So, I mean, how are the Chiefs able to take down the most dominant player in these playoffs, Derrick Henry, and work around it, Robert? Like, how did they do it?
It's honestly, I mean, as much as the Chiefs' defense during the season, the pass rushing was a big problem for them. I think they were the 25th or 26th ranked lowest pass rushing defense. When it came to Derrick Henry, they were able to contain him. I mean, it's honestly, they have the skill on that defense, like Tyrann Mathieu. They do
Kendall Fuller.
Kendall Fuller. They do have a lot of guys on that defense that can.
Brought in Terrell Suggs.
Yeah, that's true. They do have Terrell Suggs. Yeah, absolutely.
Passion, like those guys on the defense, they may not necessarily be household names, other than Matthew, but they have guys in there like Passion, like
Chris Jones.
Yeah, Chris Jones, who's becoming a household name. Those guys that are there, they were able to stop that run, and I shouldn't say stop. They contain the run, and that's all they needed to do, because the offense is able to win them games. They win and they lose from their offense, and that's what we saw on Sunday. So you got offense, passing offense, in a good defense. I'll call them a good defense. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But you got a running game, and I would say a great defense from San Francisco. That sounds like a real good matchup to me.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the most,
I'm really excited about it.
One of the closest matchups you'll have.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a game that could be decided on like a last-second field goal kind of thing. Yeah. It could be one of those. It could be, or it could be if one team really figures out the other. Could be like a 34-10 Super Bowl too. I mean, it could really you could at this point right now, 12 days away. You can convince me of any possible outcome, and I would believe you, because I do believe that there are so many ways this could go out. And we'll talk more Super Bowl next week on the podcast. Next week on the show, we have an hour-long special Super Bowl preview on the show next Monday, so be sure to tune into that. But we're going to move on now. We'll talk about what's happening now, what's happening today. Today is the day where the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2020 is revealed. Robert, I know you're going to talk about who you're most excited about. So just tell the listeners now. Who are you most excited about for this class to come in?
Derek Jeter.
100%.
I think it has to be Derek Jeter. A lot of people would argue that he should not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, that he's one of the more overrated players that could get into the Hall. But look, you look at his career, the guy is a winner and arguably the face of the Yankees. I mean, he was Yankees captain his entire career there. So, I mean, he was the face of the Yankees for his entire career. This is a guy that is as big of a player as you can get, name-wise, game-wise. It's a guy that you want in your Hall of Fame, and he's absolutely earned it, I think. And I think anybody that really argues otherwise is, it starts to be like, okay, maybe you just don't like the Yankees. I don't know. But Derek Jeter absolutely deserves to be there, and I think he's probably the one most people are excited to see go in.
Yeah, I think. Look, Derek Jeter's the headline in this class. I think that's absolutely. But who's going to go in with Jeter is the big question.
Right.
And this, every year, it's Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens. Is it your year this time? Is it your year this time? Jeff, who is Jeter going in the Hall with, if anybody?
La Liche, two-times All-Star, Bob Brew. I mean, I got to watch him a little bit growing up. I mean, he retired in 2014, remember, with the Mets. I mean, he's been around since 96. Two-time All-Star. I mean, Gold Glove winner.
Two-time All-Star?
2005. I mean, he was a Gold Glove. He was a Silver Slugger.
Look,
he's in the Philadelphia Phillies Hall of Fame. I mean, he's a dark horse, but I think he'll make it just because.
Not on the first ballot, though. Not on the first ballot.
Watching the MLB shows, I mean, they've been speaking of him highly, and I remember watching him back in the day, back when I used to watch Tampa Bay Rays, and every time we played against him, he was always fantastic. He's always been a solid overall player, and I think that the Hall of Fame doesn't need to go for huge names like Jeter, but it will go just because it brings in commercial value, and they need to look for more solid and, I mean, overall consistent players over their whole career.
That's true. And look, Bobby Abreu, I don't think... Well, I see actually what you're... now that you're throwing it out there, I do see where that comes from. Because Bobby Abreu, I mean, had a very long career and was never, like, one of the best players, but he was valuable to many, many franchises for a long time, too. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from. I still don't think he makes it. Not this year, at least. But... he's a guy, it comes down to can you stay on the ballot? That's really it. And I do believe he will stay on the ballot. And that's what matters. And the thing is, when you get further away from, like, that's why they do the Hall of Fame not immediately after you retire. You wait 5 or so years and you look back on the impact. Has that impact withstanded itself? How much it kind of like really makes you consider and really makes you think, was Bobby Abreu really valuable throughout the 2000s? And I can think that now. But the first name that comes to mind when I think of this Hall of Fame class is not Bobby Abreu. I can tell you that. Outside of Derek Jeter, the question is this the year where Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens get in? Now, with what's going on with the Astros and the cheating scandals and all of that, in a way, I actually think it helps their case in the weirdest way possible, because it almost makes that whole scandal like, oh, it's not the hottest scandal in baseball anymore. It was, now there's something worse. So it's like, oh, hey, and look, Bonds and Clemens have been on the ballot for, I want to say like 8 years now, because they've retired in 2007. And then 5 years, they started on the ballot in 2012. It's now 2020. So it's 8-9 years they've been on the ballot. And
they go up a percentage point or two every
they're
every
almost
year
there.
too.
They are almost there. But could this be the year? Is it, Robert? What do you think? Yes or no?
This is the closest they'll get, I think.
I feel like if they don't get in this year...
It's going to be hard because, you got... The only other two I can see really getting in, and well, maybe three. You got Schilling, you got Gary Sheffield, and you got Jeff Kent. And those are the other three that might go in. And those are the only ones I could see actually holding. It depends on how many they want in the Hall this year. But, Kent, Sheffield, Schilling are the other three you can make a case for. But, Bonds and Clemens had better careers than those guys did.
Yeah.
And, they were never officially caught with anything. It's all allegations.
Bonds and Clemens were 59.1 and 59.9% respectively last year. So they are close. And they started from in the 30s to now they're almost at the 60s. You need 75% to get in, though. There's still a long way to go.
They are a long way away. That's the thing. And, it's going to be interesting to see how much they shoot up this year if they don't get in. If they get into the they should get into the 60s, I would think. But it's going to be interesting to see how...
Because they only get 10 years on the ballot, so it's like now or never kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the best time for them to go in. And look, Bonds, say what you will about him, Bonds rejuvenated the sport. I mean, even with the whole steroids thing, Bonds was hitting home runs left and right. I mean, he brought baseball... I mean, baseball was in a lockout in the early 90s, and the whole, steroid scandal, if you want to call it that, really brought baseball back to being entertaining and exciting again. So it's hard to justify keeping him out when guys like Jeff Bagwell just went in, and Jeff Bagwell's been accused of using steroids as well. So if you put Bagwell in, do you put Bonds in? Do you put Clemens in? That's what's the line in the sand? Where do you draw the line? That's really what this comes to.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I think it'd be real cool to see Derek Jeter go into the Hall by himself.
Yeah.
Because in a way, Derek Jeter was the face of baseball. When I first started watching baseball, Derek Jeter was the face of baseball. And that was after they had won their championships too. Like, I probably got into baseball when I was like maybe 5 or 6, and they won all their titles before then.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, like, it's not the fact that Jeter played in New York. It's not the fact that he played shortstop, played such the iconic baseball position. It's the fact that he won.
Yeah.
More than anything. He's a winner. That man's a winner. He won 5 titles. 5, right? 96, 98, 99, 2000, 09. Yeah, 5 titles. And then lost in the World Series 01. And then again 03. He's 7 World Series appearances.
Yeah.
I watched a video this morning. They said that Derek Jeter played only 1 game at home where the Yankees were not in contention for the playoffs. In 20 years. 20 years he played at Yankee Stadium. He played just 1 game. So if you take that, so they play 81 games in a season, and you multiply that by 20, that's about, say, 1,600 games?
Yeah.
You played 1,600 games at home, and only 1 game you had where you weren't in contention of the playoffs. That, to me, is the most impressive stat in all of this, is that he was a part of their success for so long. He wasn't only part of their success once, but twice. Look, 2000 and 2009 were 2 totally different teams. He was part of both of those teams, and, probably wasn't as prominent on that 09 team, but he's still a huge part of it. He was, like, the captain. He's the captain.
Yeah. There's not a more synonymous name with that Yankees team in the last 20 years than Derek Jeter.
And look, and honestly, like, if the Yankees had a Derek Jeter now, and I think that's why Aaron Judge is so iconic right now, because they see a lot of Derek Jeter in him.
Yeah.
And they are kind of Jetering him. They want him to be the next Jeter, which I feel like is unfair for Aaron Judge a little bit, but that's what they want him to be, because that's the impact that Derek Jeter has left on the Yankees. Is you're looking for people to be the next you. When you have people who are trying to, mirror yourself, that to me shows more about your legacy than anything. Anything. And look, so I would be okay if Jeter went in by himself. I don't think anyone needs to be in this class. Look, and you have, if he went in with Curt Schilling, I feel like that'd be kind of a taint. Not gonna lie, and no offense to Curt Schilling, but I don't know. He's not on that same level as him. And look, Jeter, I don't think is on the same level as to anyone except maybe Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens.
Yeah.
However, Larry Walker, very good player, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame too. It's his last year. So that helps his case for sure. And if Larry Walker makes it, I think that would be justified just because it's his last year. It'd be a little weird considering he's going in with Derek Jeter and Derek Jeter's going to take all the press and everything. It wouldn't even surprise me if the Yankees, they might play at night that day on his inauguration day because there are going to be so many people paying attention to that. Versus, they might even cancel that game. They might move it to another day because that's how, that's where I see Yankees fans focusing over. So look, Jeter gets in. Bonds, Clemens. I'm just going to go down the line. Does Barry Bonds get in? Yes or no? Is he on your ballot? Yes or no?
He'd be on my ballot. Yeah.
He's on your ballot. Is he going to make it though?
No.
Okay. Jeff?
I would like to see him make it just because he is iconic. I mean, from face value, like, you put him next to Derek Jeter, and those are one of the two most iconic players to play in baseball. Like you said, I don't think he's going to make it just because of the allegations, and it's kind of sad. But it's kind of how I feel about Manny Ramirez also, because on face value, I think he can make it also. But because of the suspensions and the tons of allegations for him using, enhancing, drugs and stuff, I mean, I don't think he's going to make it either.
Yeah.
And Manny actually got popped twice, too, so they actually tested him, and, that's the same thing with Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah. But also, in a way, I think younger people like us are more forgiving and more okay with the fact that they did get caught with this than older people. And the people voting are relatively of a certain age. Not calling nobody old here on the HTF podcast, but that does, I think, play a role. And what you see is the voters get younger every year, just because that's just how voting works. And I think that's why their percentages have gone up, because the younger crowd of voters puts them on the ballot versus the voters of a certain age. They continue to leave them off the ballot every year. So, maybe not this year, but they have 2 years after this in which they're eligible, and they, maybe 2021, maybe 2022, maybe not. And maybe that will teach people, that era of baseball. Because that's the thing is, whether Bonds and Clemens get in this year or next year, that is going to define, almost be the closing chapter of that, era of baseball. Was this seen as something that was accepted or not accepted? And that's a big responsibility, because that is how that legacy will be remembered for years and years and years. And I feel like if they do get in, then we won't see that as much of a tainted era of baseball, which I hope that we see, because you don't want to be remembered for, basically that whole, late 90s, early 2000s. That was such an exciting time for baseball. The amount of home runs that were hit, let's get to let's get 60, 62, 63, 64, 72, 73. And it would be a shame to see that kind of be taken away, because despite the circumstances, they provided a very entertaining brand of baseball, which is similar to how this brand of baseball is today. I think this brand of baseball that we see today is very entertaining. The strategy behind the strategy behind who to put in the game, who to pitch, who not to pitch, who to play at this position, etc. That's an exciting brand of baseball. And if it is, asterisk, tainted, whatever, by, Astros and whoever else is, illegally cheating or whatever we're calling it, it would be disappointing. It would be disappointing. And I'm not just saying that because my team got a ring in this whole thing, but it would just be disappointing, because this still is, I don't know about you guys, this is an entertaining brand of baseball today.
I would agree. Yeah. It's it's obviously a lot different. It's focused a lot more on, hitting on base, then
strategy and numbers.
Yeah, definitely strategy, sabermetrics. You know, the advanced stats. It's the advanced. A lot of people, a lot of the old guard will say, "Oh, I can't believe these advanced stats. I can't keep up with it." But it is entertaining. It's entertaining to see how these managers manage now and how they throw out the rotation and how they pitch to certain batters. It is very entertaining for a more cerebral mind, if you will.
Yeah. All right. Before we sign off, gotta talk the McGregor fight. Got just a little bit. Just gotta mention it. 40 seconds. We have 40 seconds to talk about it. Go.
The king's back, baby. It's my best Irish impression.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, Robert. You got a career in impressions.
40 seconds for the 30 seconds that fight lasted.
Yeah. Is Conor Khabib 2 going to happen?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it going to happen?
I think Khabib is going to beat him once again. McGregor is back, but Khabib is just he's I think the talent margin, I think Khabib's just rising while McGregor's just taking little steps. I think McGregor needs to take a couple more minor fights, maybe something to keep on boosting his confidence, and then going to that Khabib fight. But
you just got knocked out.
Oh yeah, I mean
you're a cowboy and you're knocked out.
I mean yeah.
Yep.
I mean Dana White is like salivating over part 2, and UFC fans are all
you
going
knew
nuts.
he was talking. He suggested it. He's like, oh, Conor Khabib it would make sense. Like he definitely is trying to push that. And 6-9 months down the road, probably in October, something like that. That'd be a great, like around Halloween.
Yeah. Well,
Isn't Halloween on a Saturday this year? That'd be crazy if the Halloween fight. Ooh.
McGregor said he's staying at 170, so that gives them a couple options. You get April. April is the big fight. That's Ferguson.
Right,
Ferguson,
against Khabib. Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. And if Tony wins that, then where does Khabib's rematch come into that? And then also, if Conor stays at 170... I assume he's going to... He said he needs to work more, so I'm assuming he's going to take another fight, and then you get Usman Masvidal first, and then maybe he gets the winner of Usman Masvidal. I don't know where that goes from there, but...
I mean, I don't know the whole, ins and outs behind that, but I would watch Khabib Conor too. I watched Khabib Conor 1, huge watch party. It was crazy. I'll watch it. I don't know if I'd pay for it. I'd find a way around it. But I had a fun night on Saturday night. It gave me something to do.
Yeah, I went to Ale House.
I was at a...
The rest of the card was kind of weak, but I
didn't watch that. I watched my eyes were on the TV for 40 seconds. That was it. But anyway, guys, that is all for today's episode of the Hitting the Field podcast. We got a lot in.
We did.
52 minutes. It's pretty good. And we have more coming your way this week. So, for the first time, at least that I've been here, we're doing the Hitting the Field mock draft. Hitting the Field collective mock draft. So, people from around Hitting the Field are submitting their mock drafts in today. And we are going to create a collective mock draft. And we will reveal it on the podcast. That won't go out until Thursday, the 23rd, because that marks the 3-month mark until the Hitting the Field draft show on April 23rd. So we're going to do a mock draft 3 months out, 2 months out, 1 month out, and the day of. So we'll have 4 mock drafts for you guys, a collective mock draft from the entire Hitting the Field crew. We're also working on getting an alumni mock draft as well from the Hitting the Field alumni. So that should be exciting, but probably won't happen though until past the combine, maybe even not until the day of. But we're going to start our mock draft coverage, the 2020 NFL draft coverage, Thursday. So Thursday, and you can listen live on WNSC Radio tomorrow at 4 p.m. or so. I'll be in here with Dylan Breitner and Christopher Wolf. We'll reveal our own mock drafts, and we'll reveal the first HDF Collective Mock Draft 1.0. And then next Monday, we still have a football season going on. So next Monday, we will preview the Super Bowl 54, right? 54?
Yeah,
54 matchup.
54,
I'm going to go with 54. Super Bowl 54 matchup. Chiefs-Niners. Should be an exciting time. It'll be a special 1-hour episode. We'll break down everything the Super Bowl has to offer, from Jimmy Garoppolo to Raheem Mostert to Patrick Mahomes and Dee Ford. Is this the Dee Ford Bowl? Can we call this the Dee Ford Bowl? Chiefs last year, Niners this year? Or is this the Joe Montana Bowl?
Yeah, that's what it was. Joe Montana Bowl.
I prefer the D Ford Bowl. That sounds more fun. That actually would be an interesting part, and we'll go definitely more into depth about that next week. But Jeff, Robert, thank you guys so much for joining me today. It was great having you guys in the booth. Try to do this sometime later on in the future for sure.
Yes, sir. It's always been a pleasure to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for having me first time. Hopefully it was up to par.
Oh, it for sure was. It was a birdie. All right.
It was a birdie.
See, now we got every single sport. All right. All right. And we will see you guys tomorrow for the mock draft pod.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask. I just really hit the field. I just really hit the field. I just really hit the field. I just really hit the field.